And the title is Wow. The wow is disappeared. Yes. Wow, your English is so great. So yeah, let's start. So at the first month of it's okay. At the first month in my US life, the first month, I noticed a phenomenon. That is, I feel super great when someone say to me, "Wow, your English is so great," and feel depressed when I cannot join the conversation in English. Frankly speaking, this is not the first time this phenomenon happens. When I was in Taiwan, I often feel bad when I cannot speak English fluently, and I envy those who can speak English fluently a lot. This phenomenon not only happens on me, but also happens on my friends. So you may think this is normal, and this means you have to practice English more, spend more efforts to learn English so that you will not have these bad feelings. However, I feel something strange. Why we should judge ourselves merely because of a language? That is, why we should feel bad about ourselves when we speak English not so fluently. In order to dig more to this thought, so I spent some time to think about it, and finally I found actually it is a kind of value judgment in our society. Like, we will think students in the top school are the best students. This is the social judgment thing. So we may think good English ability implies high personal value, and bad English ability implies low personal value. This is one kind of value judgment thing in our society. And that's why we feel good or bad, because there are always social expectations on these things, so we will have some reaction to it. And I think this is not good. We should not use this kind of thing, our second language, to judge our own value. So today I want to share with you my thoughts about this value judgment. And I would like to divide them into three parts. The first one is, where did this value judgment come from? The second one is why we should not hold this value judgment. The final one is how we can conquer the influence of this value judgment in NTU Toastmasters. So let's start from the first part. And I'm going to walk through the class, because when I was taking the class in this classroom, my teacher loved to walk everywhere in the classroom. Yeah. So, and also I can see the slides more clearly here. So, where did this value judgment come from? There are many two parts I can talk. Where did it form? And how can it come to our mind? So, how did this value judgment form? You may often hear this kind of statement. English is useful. English is a global language. English can help you get better jobs. However, English is originally only a language in England, or we say Great Britain. How can it become a global language that's dominant in the whole world? The reason, from my perspective, is mainly because of the imperialism of the United States. 美国帝国主义. You may think, what? Imperialism? Isn't it just things that shows in my history textbook? And I think that's century thing, right? The text open access when American people go to find other countries. But actually, we are now still suffers a lot in this imperialism of the United States. But the whole story is too complex, so let's just say it very simple. So, in one time point of the history, British people started to colonialize many places in the world, and the English definitely become the language in those places and include where we call the United States now. And in the later point of history, The United States becomes the most influential country in the world, and it starts to make rules for the game of the world. For those who has power to make rules, they will tend to make rules that can keep their power. Oh, sorry. So there are a lot of unreasonable and unfair rules in this game structure, and it's always hard to change our position in this game structure. Like Taiwan, we are in a very weak position in this game structure, and the United States are often doing things that sacrifice other countries. For example, in the 2008 financial crisis, the world impacting financial crisis, it was caused by the United States. But the United States did a lot of operations that sacrifice other countries a lot. That is, they do some operations that make other countries being influenced more and make itself being influenced less. So you can see how evil the United States is. Yeah. The world game led by the United States is still continuing. And most of the rules and the resources are controlled by those who speak English. Therefore, English is definitely the dominant and will keep being the dominant language in the world. That's why English is so useful, and why we can have English as a way to get good jobs, because we have such a hidden game structure in the world. Now I want to talk about how did this value judgment comes to our mind? Because Taiwan is also in this game structure, so our society and our education system is actually reflecting the game rules. So we are forced to learn English when we were young, and we had to take English as a subject in entrance exams. And as a result, English became a way for choosing who can get resources. If a student can speak English or has good English ability, he or she will have better chance to get more resources and will be seen as has more value, or to be seen as more excellent or more outstanding. This is how this value judgment firstly comes to our mind. And later, even though such things also happens in other subjects like math, but English is only one subject that exists from elementary school to graduate school and even to the works environment. What's more, because the judgment of English, the ability comes in real time. That is, unlike math, we often only being judged in the exams. English, when you speak to others in English, if you cannot make others understand, the awkward feeling will immediately comes to you and makes you feel bad. That's why we may feel embarrassed or even feel shame when we don't speak English fluently. And all these things makes this kind of value judgment be put into our mind and being emphasized again and again. Now you can see all these things comes from a very unreasonable and unfair game structure. Then you may be curious about whether there is a way to change the game structure. I have to say it is possible to change the game rules, but it's very hard. You can see America is evil. However, especially because when we are learning English, we are actually learning and being influenced by the culture and the culture of the United States. Therefore, we will tend to value the people from the United States more than people in other countries. Also, it will be easier to accept their rules. It sounds miserable, right? I see everybody's face, is yeah, but I think this is not that bad. There is still a chance for us to have things to do. Even though the United States is evil in many ways, there are still good parts of it. For example, people there are very diverse, and their culture are more open to different kinds of opinions. So people there do protest when they think their government do things bad to other countries. Also, I bet the United States would rather compromise than lose its whole power. So there is still room for negotiation if we go to address our voice. But to address our voice, we need to learn English. That is why I think learning English is still important. In the United States, one thing is important. If you don't argue for yourself, things will never be changed. Even if you argue, something may not still be changed. But if you never argue, nothing will be changed. Nobody will come to you and argue for you. No. That is the very strict rule for survival in the United States. So I think what we should do is learn English, but we should not use English to judge a person's value. So in the following, I'm going to talk about why we should not hold the value judgment. What I mean holding the value judgment here is to use English to judge whether a person is good or bad, or whether this person is smart or not. From my psychology background, yes, I have some psychology background, I can tell learning English is a complex process. Learning English is a complex process. It is never merely because of pronunciation, vocabulary, or grammar issue. And because English is a language, it is a tool for communication. To have an effective communication, what you need to know is how to use the language. And the best way to know how to use the language is by using it directly. So it is important to just use the language in the situation. Study also shows that if we use the language in the environment, we will remember these things with the environment cue so that we can know how to use it even more fluently. So if we think speaking English as a value judgment thing, that is, if we don't speak English fluently, it's a bad thing, then we will tend to hide this side of ourselves. So when it comes to the chance to speak English, you will try to hide yourself, become silent, and miss the chance to speak, miss the chance to practice and make improvements. So that's why I think we should not hold this value judgment. We should definitely think learning English is important, but never use this to judge others and to judge ourselves. Now you know why I think holding this value judgment is not good. But to change a value judgment in us that we hold for so many years is always hard. So we have to take actions on it. And there are definitely some actions we can take until Toastmasters. Yeah. Okay. I feel a little bit hard to tell now because I even feel stressed now. Yeah, because I feel your face becomes sleepy now because I feel I'm like a professor talking and speak nothing here. Yeah, I really feel a little bit sorry about that because I prepared this speech for a short time and I write the script on airplane. But something in this talk. So this last part is the most thing I want to say here. So to conquer a value judgment, you have to do something. And there are two things we can do in NTU Toastmasters. So one way to conquer the value judgment is to find a place that doesn't have this value judgment a lot. So as you can see in just a few seconds ago, I think NTU Toastmaster is such a place that will not judge a person by English ability. People here, the culture here makes us respect and appreciate others' opinions and courage to speak on the stage. And also, no matter how good or bad a speech is, just like you can tell me the feedback after I finish this speech, yeah, I think there are always feedback for good points and suggestions. And because other people do these things to us, we start to try to do also finding other people's good points and try to give useful suggestions. That is a thing that I think is very treasured here. I think this is a big treasure here in NTU Toastmasters. So this is really a good place for people to gain the courage to speak English. And with little by little, you will have confidence to speak English, even though you may not speak it fluently. Like when I was in the United States, I am there to speak, even though I don't know what I'm saying. But I can just stand up and say things, and people will be surprised by my courage. And I got many chances to practice more and get feedback. So I think this is a way to help us to conquer the value judgments a lot. And the second thing I think here we can do in NTU Toastmasters to help us conquer the value judgment is to learn to think differently and think from different perspectives. And thinking for this is actually need a good environment. And I think NTU Toastmasters do have this environment because people here are very, very diverse. We can hear many different opinions and experience here. And a lot of discussion keep continuing here. In the past 3 years, when I was here, I discussed a lot of different kinds of issues with my friends here. And I do learn a lot from them. This really made me more mature and become able to think differently and help us get rid of those social judgments that restrict me a lot. And so I think this is also why I want to deliver this speech here today. Because no matter what I say makes sense to you or not, I think this is a way of thinking. And I really encourage all of you to try to express your opinions here and try to discuss your ideas with others and listen to others' opinions. This will be beneficial to your life, no matter your English is good or bad. This is how I gain courage to face the challenges now I'm facing. So to sum up, yes, it's almost the end. To sum up, in the future, I think if you suddenly face a moment that you feel really bad about yourselves because you do not speak English fluently, please try to recall the speech I delivered today. Recall the evil American hidden rules things, and think about we should not be restricted by the social judgment. Get rid of the bad feelings and focusing on making improvements. And if you find yourself hard to do that by yourself, you can grab the chance to practice here. And I really hope all of you can have ways to achieve your goals and value yourselves. 鹏鹏 and Iman.